My co-host. Hi, this is Margaret Donor and my co-host,
Shelley Tattlebaum.
and we are here to do another episode of the Healing Hour. And we're delighted to be with you again. Shelley and I have done how many shows now? Is this our fourth? I think it's our fourth show.
I believe it is.
And we've been covering a lot of topics to assist you to find peace, to find balance in your life, to heal mind, body, and spirit. And this week, we wanted to focus a little bit on you and on the idea of healing our own minds, our own bodies, our spirit, and we're going to be covering the topic of aging, which many of us are well aware of. I remember, even though when I was young, I thought I was old. I think even when you're in your 20s, you think you're old sometimes. So we're delighted to be with you, and we're going to introduce ourselves right now. I am Margaret Donor, and I'm the co-owner of Partners in Massage, which is a healing center in Hyde Park, New York, 845-229-9133, 845-229-9133, Partners in Massage, and we specialize in body, mind, and spirit healing work. And Shelley Tattlebaum will introduce herself now.
My name is Shelley Tattlebaum, as I said before, and I am the director and creator of the Center for Grief, Loss, and Life Transition in Poughkeepsie, New York, on 39 College View Avenue, across the street from Vassar College. And the phone number there is 471-5269. And I'd also like to just give some recognition to our sponsors. William G. Miller and Son Funeral Home is a family-owned and operated business, and that's actually located at 371 Hooker Avenue in Poughkeepsie. And Miller Funeral Home brings 3 generations of personal service to every funeral arrangement. And the Miller family is a family, just like yours, and they experience grief just like you. They take their responsibility very seriously, and they share that commitment with no other family or funeral home. Vincent Miller, personally oversees all arrangements, and he continues that Miller family tradition that was started by his grandfather in 1932. So rest assured you'll have the Miller Funeral Home commitment before, during, and after the funeral. And that's the Miller Family Guarantee. So if you have any questions, you can call them at 485-0241. That's 485-0241, or visit their webpage at www.wmgmillerfuneralhome.com. I'd also like to thank the New York State Solar Farm, making solar affordable for every home owner. And you can actually save from day one with their new solar energy lease program, with no money out of your pocket and savings from day one. You can actually request a free iQuote today and get it tomorrow by visiting www.nyssf.com, or you can call their solar professionals at 877-SOLAR-95. And also the Basic Glass Corporation. It's a commercial architectural glass company, and they actually supply and install all of your commercial needs, from aluminum storefronts and aluminum doors and skylights. And you can visit them on their webpage, which is www.basicglass, that's BASECGLASS.com. I'd also like to say that this is a talk show, and we welcome your comments and your questions. And our phone number here at the station is 471-9500. That's 471-9500. So I think, Margaret, we are ready to rock and roll.
Well, today, Shelley and I were interested in exploring the topic of aging and the loss that we each personally feel as we age, and the issues not only in the physical body, but also the issues that we have with our emotional body, the issues we have with the spiritual aspects of aging. And as a body worker and a healer, I cannot tell you how many times a client comes into me and says, aging is horrible. Aging is an awful thing. I hate getting older. my body aches, and so forth. And there's a lot of negative programming in our minds around aging. And I think it's important that we talk about it and we recognize it and we come up with alternative points of view, because as we all know, many tribal communities revere the elders, and it really is something I think that we need to get back to doing. We need to recognize there's a wisdom and a beauty to growing old. And, when we think back to who we were in our 20s, most of us would be perfectly happy not to have to relive some of those teens and 20s experiences when we look back and think how naive we were. So let's applaud and celebrate aging and honor aging
today. Honor the process.
Yeah. And talk about some of the things we can do for our physical bodies as well to keep the physical body healthy. I'm certainly learning a lot over the recent months as I've encountered some health issues, and I've changed my diet and learning things. So I think there's a lot we can do to growing old with grace and appreciation. So Shelley, what kind of points of view do you have on this? What do you see as perhaps the biggest roadblock that many of us have towards the aging process?
From my point of view, it's the interpretations that we make about aging. So when I heard you say a moment ago that you had just gone through some health challenges and you had to change your diet, it wasn't like, oh man, I had to change my diet and, this sucks. And,
right.
That kind of opinionated negative attitude that then increases more suffering for yourself. So
and I've actually found it not as difficult as I thought it would be. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But we have this preconceived notion that, getting older is a really bad thing. And when we look in the mirror and, the mirror reflects back to us that our faces and our bodies do not look the same as they did when we were in our 20s. I'm in my 60s now. So, certainly there have been changes in my body. And instead of looking into the mirror and saying, oh my God, look at this, and another wrinkle and another gray hair, and oh my God, every time I do that, I'm abusing my body. I'm abusing myself. Would I say that to you, Margaret? Oh my God, look at your wrinkles. Oh my God, look at your gray hair. That's awful.
You might, but you wouldn't get such a nice answer in return.
Right. It's just, most of us would censor that to other people, and yet we feel that towards ourselves that it's okay to give ourselves that, abusive self-talk. And from my point of view, awareness, and we talk about the same things over and over again in many different ways, Margaret, that mastering awareness is your first step in order to change anything. You have to be aware of what you're saying to yourself and what you're doing before you can say, wow, look what I'm doing, and then go inside and say, and what is this doing to my body? When I give myself this message, oh my God, you're so fat, you're ugly, you're old, you're aging, how does that make my body feel?
Right. How does that make me feel about being alive?
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting is that I have found that when people make assumptions that they have to feel bad as they grow older, they also close down all those myriad of options that are out there right now to make themselves feel better. I mean, we are so fortunate because even, 50 or 60 years ago, there was an aspirin. That was it, And now with all the different kinds of healing modalities, and I'm going to just go into some of them today, which a lot of people may not have ever heard of. There's just an amazing wide range of things, and I'm sure I won't even come close to even touching what's available to help people to feel good. And it's about exploring them and finding out what works for you. So those aching knees and that, you think are just inevitable in the aging process may not be. And it can be a very simple cure. Doesn't have to be, this massive thing. So a combination of the mind, opening your mind and being willing to accept changes, perhaps in diet, in behavior, and perhaps in the way you treat your body, all can help to enjoy life as you age. And so there is a grief associated with it to some extent. I was just telling Shelley that a friend of mine just emailed me that I've known since I was 13. We grew up together, and she lives in Colorado now. And she told me she was getting teary-eyed. She was going through an old diary that a bunch of us kept in high school as we recorded all our boyfriend moments and everything. And she was thinking about all the times we shared in our 20s and disco dancing and, the wild times together. And she was getting teary-eyed and, and thinking about, she said, I still want to go dancing. I still want to go dancing. And so, she and I will have to get together and dance together for old times. But that's a part of the aging, too, is that nostalgia.
Yeah, but I would like to say something about nostalgia. I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to bring it up later. We have a preconceived notion, once again, that nostalgia is a good thing. Isn't it wonderful to feel nostalgic? Well, if it creates sadness, then why would we create more sadness and have that nostalgia be in a sad way? I could reinterpret it from the point of view of, gee, remember when we did this when we were in high school? Wow, that feels so good to remember how much fun we had. Wasn't that awesome? Wasn't that great? Why do we have to be sad? Why can't it just be great and keep that feeling in our bodies of great? Recently I was with...
I think it's sad when you feel that right now that your life isn't enjoyable, then it feels that you've lost something. And that's okay to recognize that, but you don't want to stay there, as you're saying. But I think that when you're feeling your current life has, less to offer, the nostalgia, that's when we paint the beautiful picture about the past. And I could remind her of some stories that perhaps she wouldn't want to be reminded of. But we tend to make it glossy. We tend as a group consciousness to think about the 1950s. Oh, ugh. When you really think about it, you can go ugh to a lot of things. People don't tend to get nostalgic over McCarthyism and stuff, but they will about, the old TV show like Donna Reed,
Right.
So a lot of that nostalgia is also false. It's false. It's not real. It's a rose-colored glasses kind of thing.
So why would we become sad over something that may not even be real? Some of our memories are not even real. As I was starting to say before, when I was with my teacher, Don Miguel Ruiz, a few weeks ago, I made an off-the-cuff remark and said to him, gee, I really miss Gary. I really love him. I just miss him. And he looked at me and he said, why do you have to miss him? Why can't you just love him? And it was like, wow, you're right. Why do I have to miss him? Why do I have to miss the good old days? Why can't I just love them? Why can't I just remember them with fondness and love instead of directing all my attention on, oh, that's gone. That part of my life is gone and over. And so, yes, that part of our life is gone and over. But you know what? Yesterday is gone and over.
Right.
As well.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the both wonderful and difficult things about getting older is the relationship to time. Everything doesn't, I think for me anyway, it loses time and life loses solidity. There's a sense that things become more ephemeral and less solid, and you have the ability to draw on wisdom, and you don't attach so intensely to events and things that happen because you do know that it'll pass and that it's going to move, and this too will change, this too will alter and shift. And certainly that's one of the great gifts of aging. And I remember when I was in my 20s, everything in teens, every little event was so serious, and I thought it was going to be forever. When my boyfriend dumped me when I was 17 or 18, that was the end of life,
Mm-hmm.
But now you can see that it goes on and it moves and shifts and changes. So right there is perhaps the number one thing to be grateful for in our life as we age.
I'd like to share a story with everybody. And I imagine that those of you who are listening out there may relate to it. When I turned 50, I happened to be with Don Miguel doing a power journey, a spiritual journey. And he was asking us about what part of us we want to die that doesn't serve us. And I started to think about how I was 50 and how I became acutely aware at that time how my body was changing, that I was certainly getting more gray hair and wrinkles, and gravity was taking over certain parts of my body. And I have two younger daughters, and when I walked down the streets and nobody was looking at me anymore, they were looking at my daughters, and feeling that sense of my own feminine power, that loss of it. And so I spoke with Don Miguel about that, and he said, okay, so tell me all the things that you're not. Well, I made this great list of I'm not young, I'm not pretty like I used to be, I'm not this, I don't have the strength. I just kept going on and on and on with the I am nots. And he listened very carefully, and he said, is there any more? When I had finished, and I thought of a couple more things of the I am nots. And he said, now I'd like you to close your eyes, and I'd like you to describe Shelley from the inside. And I sat there for a moment, and I said, wow, I'm really smart, I'm really caring, I'm really compassionate, I'm really wise, and I really began to feel who I really was on the inside. And when I opened up my eyes, Don Miguel said to me, okay, so now you know who you really are. Stop looking in the mirror. Whenever you're feeling the I am not, close your eyes and go into who you really are. And that was a very powerful lesson for me. And so I'd like to share that with everybody.
That's a wonderful exercise for other people to do as well when they find themselves in that denigrating themselves.
Sure. How many people look in the mirror and talk about the I am nots?
Right. And just to think about how you, what you are on the inside and what you give the world. And
there's a sadness and a grief when you acknowledge all the I am nots in terms of what you were before, not looking at who you are now.
Right.
We don't look at that part of it.
Right. I think that one of the things that I find it's so interesting as a body worker and doing this work for over 20 years is how differently people do age. That's been so fascinating for me. I have a client who's into her 70s and is doing, karate.
Wow.
She's getting her black
belt. Good for her.
And then somebody else will come in and just have given up. It's the end, and I'm in my 70s now, it's the end. But other people are still moving, and as long as they draw breath, they're still going, they're still moving, they're still working mind, body, spirit. And I think that ability to do that is in part, sort of what you're talking about, sort of figuring out or liking what it is are your gifts, what it is that not everybody's going to want to do karate, but it's the idea of, this is something that expresses this particular person. And she didn't just say, oh, I can't do that because I'm getting older. She said, I'm going to do it.
What if we just drop the number?
Yeah.
What if we just drop the number?
Yeah.
Because that number carries with it a story.
Right.
And
right.
So what if we just drop the number?
Right.
And you're right. We sometimes look at people who are aging, and we look at their, sometimes when I see pictures of Native American women, for example, older women, and all the lines and beautiful lines in their face, and some of us look at that and say, wow, that's so beautiful. But yet, would it be beautiful on me? Would I have that same interpretation if it were my face? And it's learning how to love ourselves and having compassion for ourselves and recognition of who we really are. That is so much a part of the healing of this aging, raging, so to speak. Instead of aging, raging, I'd like to look at it as aging and saging, becoming older and wiser.
Right. And what's interesting is if you go onto television and you see all the infomercials, um, you know, there's a lot of people making a lot of money
Oh, yeah.
to keep people young.
Preying
And
on that part of ourselves.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that whole idea that the magazine covers now, all the pictures are extremely airbrushed so that nobody is even close to what they really look like. And, it's sort of interesting that we often wonder now when we look at a picture, the big question is, how much has it been photoshopped? Is it real? Is it not real? So we've been moving more and more into this whole world of unreality. And I think that is also weakening our ability to love ourselves in the reality. And if you think about, I've always thought this was interesting, if you think about walking through your day and the people you see, and that's reality, right? Those are the people you actually see, and this is what they really look like, right? And then you think about the magazines, and not a single one of those people you would ever see in one of those magazines because they've all been airbrushed and whatever. And so what are we telling ourselves? We're basically telling ourselves, that we're not good enough, that whatever it is that we're not good enough. And I think the first thing to changing that is exactly what you said, which is to stop looking at the outside all the time and start looking at the inside and make a list of all the things that you really, really love about yourself, that you value about yourself, and that brings you joy about who you are and that you give to the world. And start celebrating that rather than denigrating the outside or the physical self. And then hopefully the two will merge and there'll be a great wedding, if you will, between the inner and outer self, which is what we're all looking for anyway in the end. Right? Don't you think?
No, you're right on. You're 100% right. And for those of you who say, excuse me, I don't even know what I have on the inside. Well, maybe that's a clue that you're so busy looking on the outside that you need to actually discover or perhaps rediscover who you are. And that's a journey in itself. I'd rather go on the journey of discovering who I really am rather than keep looking outside of myself and thinking about what plastic surgeon I need to find to fix what's wrong with me. You get the choice over what journey. So many people come to me and say, well, it's easy for you to say about what you have on the inside, but I don't feel like I have anything on the inside. And those are the people who are the most get the most hooked by the illusion of the magazines, as you're talking about, because they don't have an understanding and a knowing of what and who they are on the inside. So perhaps putting your attention on that place, what brings me joy, what do I love about life, do I love nature? You can just start very simply and then go from there.
And I'm going to just ask everybody right now, I think it's a good place right now, to ask everybody who's listening to do just that. If you're not driving a car and you're sitting at your desk or you're at home, to close your eyes for a moment and go into your heart center, right into the center of your chest, right into your heart. And take a moment and feel what's going on in the center of your heart and your chest. And if you are feeling any resentment, let it melt away for a moment. Just for this moment, just let it melt away. If you're feeling any anxiety at this moment, let it melt away. If you're feeling any frustration at this moment, let it melt away. Whatever you feel that's blocking you from just feeling a moment of peace, you can pick all that up again. But right now, take a deep breath and exhale and feel your heart. And remember that in that center is a very, very loving being, a being of compassion towards yourself and others, and a sensitive and caring person. And if you're having any of those other emotions, they're probably coming from the feelings. So allow yourself to shift those feelings from the frustration, anxiety, resentment. Allow them to shift for just a moment into a feeling of caring, love, peace, and compassion. And as you relax and as you feel that, notice that it probably was about 30 seconds that we did this, maybe 45 seconds. And in that simple moment, there was a shift. It may not have been big, it may have been, but you shifted. And you went from all those emotions that were making you feel bad to an emotion that was making you feel better. And you did it with your mind. So what Shelley and I are always talking about, that your mind is within your control, and that you have the control to change your point of view at any moment to make yourself feel better. You can see how simple it was, from focusing on something that was making you feel bad to giving yourself 30 seconds or a minute to breathe and just focus for a moment on something that makes you feel good. And that alters everything. So it's not a big deal. It's not a big thing you have to do. You don't have to go away for a week or a weekend and sit cross-legged. You can do that while sitting at your desk, closing your eyes, 30 seconds, shifting out of the frustration you might be feeling right now, and just allowing yourself a moment to remember something else.
I'd like to take that, sorry, having that Hudson Valley sinus thing going on today, so forgive me for that. This exercise, this meditation that Margaret just gave to you is extremely important, more than you know. Because when our body is in pain, when we have things that hurt us on any level, emotional, physical, spiritual, when we get angry at it, it makes it worse. So for example, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you stub your toe and going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden you say, oh man, and you're so angry at your toe for hurting you because now you're going to have trouble going back to sleep again. Well, that toe is going to keep throbbing because you're angry at it. If you took one moment, like Margaret is saying, 30 seconds, and just said, oh, my poor toe, it hurts. Let me just rub it a little bit. Let me just take care of it a little bit. Then it relaxes. You relax. The tension around it relaxes. And so what most of us tend to do is we automatically get angry, feeling that our bodies have betrayed us, and we get angry at our bodies for not doing what we want it to do. And what our body is really calling for is for us to access that compassionate, loving adult that is within us, to help that part of us that is hurting, to say, I'm here. I see you're hurt. What can I do for you? I know for some this might sound very silly, but it's extremely effective. And so don't let your judgment come in and be an obstacle for you trying something new that can actually help you. I work with people who are chronically and seriously ill, who have constant pain. And when I help them and assist them in reframing their anger over the betrayal and disappointment in their bodies to this loving kindness, compassionate stance and energy, their whole body relaxes. It doesn't make the pain go all away, but it doesn't increase it and intensify it. And we also are giving ourselves a message that we're going to show up for ourselves and take care of ourselves, no matter what it is.
And when we do that, we feel more in control. We feel that our health is something that we can do something about, and our mental health and our emotional health and our physical health. So we're going to just take a very brief little break here, and we'll be coming back with more of the Healing Hour. We're going to talk about some different things you can do to feel better with your physical body when we come back. So we'll just play a little music and we'll be coming back.
This quest is merely to express that which you know best. I am Gabriel, come down, hold your hand, whisper in your ear and tell you of this plan. I am Gabriel, the one who speaks to you all, who moves you toward your chosen path and helps you when you fall. I am Gabriel, to all who ask, give my wisdom freely to help you on this path. Some of you have chosen lives of service to fulfill, others to speak and entertain. Some of you are scholars and others of you priests, but all of you have gifts you only have to see. I am the angel Gabriel, steadfast and true. The only love in my heart is the love I feel for you. Don't shy away from the calling of the heart. It's merely a return to what you've known from the start. Sing your soul songs, sing it loud and true. Be the best that you can be, that's all we want from you. I am the angel Gabriel, coming down to hold your hand, whisper in your ear, tell you of this plan.
Hi, we're back with the Healing Hour, and this is Margaret Donor and my co-host Shelley Tattlebaum, who are here today and delighted to be offering up some thoughts and ideas on how we can age and sage, how we can take care of our mind and body and spirit as we age. And we had mentioned that we wanted to discuss a couple of aspects, and I wanted to just go into some of the physical aspects. I'm the co-owner of Partners in Massage, which is a healing center in Hyde Park, New York. We're on the web, partnersinmassage.com. And our phone number is 845-229-9133. And I've been doing massage therapy for about 20 years or more, about 21 years. And over that period of time, I have certainly seen and encountered a myriad of physical issues in people's bodies that they're dealing with. And I had mentioned that I currently was changing my diet and doing some different things for myself as I'm growing older. And I've become aware that I wanted to share with you, some of you, that I went to a naturopathic physician, and he was talking to me about how there are certain things in our diets that can really cause inflammation, and we don't balance our bodies, and ultimately this can lead to not being healthy and not aging as well as we'd like to. It can cause inflammation in the joints and in our bodies, and so we need to address not only our minds, but we need to think about how to take care of our bodies better. And I know many of us have noticed how many people are becoming allergic to gluten, allergic to dairy. It seems to be rampant right now. And so many of you might want to look at your diet to see if you are ingesting a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of gluten, wheat products, corn products, and begin to think about shifting to the gluten-free products, which are available in so many of the food stores right now. It's not even an issue. You can get the gluten-free breads and pastas and so forth, because the inflammation in the digestive systems is becoming quite rampant. I've had some of my clients who work in the medical profession tell me that people are getting colostomies and things like that at amazing rates. So it's not just a small issue anymore. So to feel better, adjust your diet, look at the amount of sugar, the high fructose corn syrup. I've recently become very aware that if we get a body that is too acid, which is often fed by eating too much sugar as one of the culprits, that we can, it can promote cancer. And I was told by my doctor that the cancer rates right now are 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of every 2 men is coming down with cancer. And that much of this can be altered with diet. So if you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling that you don't have the get up and go that you used to have in your youth, you might want to start with your diet. You might want to actually look at the physical body and begin to adjust how you're eating, cutting out carbohydrates, looking for gluten-free alternatives, and really watching the high fructose corn syrups and the sugar, and even for many people, the dairy that is so mucus-causing and really digestive irritant for many people. So I wanted to put that in because I know how much changing those aspects of my life have helped me, and I've become aware of that. And I think that it's an easy thing to do. It's something that we can do just by shopping a little differently. You don't need to go to the health food stores anymore. You can actually find
even the
much of these.
restaurants now are accommodating gluten-free. And in addition to the diet, is yoga, exercise, meditation. These are very important ways to assist your body as well. Yoga is very important in terms of keeping your body limber and flexible. And so yoga is a wonderful way of, and you can just take gentle yoga classes. You don't have to be twisting yourself into a pretzel. And meditation, just slowing the body down.
Meditation,
lowering your meditation and just lowering your blood pressure. Meditation and yoga are extraordinarily important. Body scans in terms of understanding your body and where things hurt, so that you're able to breathe into it and identify what's going on. So, for example, if I do a body scan in the morning and I feel my knees are achy, then I'm not going to go to the gym and work out like a fanatic if my knees are achy, because I'm acknowledging and in touch with what my body's doing today. But 2 days later, I might feel really strong, and that would be a day that I would go to the gym. Excuse me, I would go to the gym and do exercises that I perhaps would not do if my knees were aching. So it's a real awareness of what's happening inside of your body and going inside. It's not, Margaret's point is, very important. What are you putting into your body? And also we need to have the awareness of, in terms of movement and meditation and what's happening inside my body.
That brings up a very good point, because one of the things that I wanted to talk about is how many people I also see that don't exercise differently as they're getting older, and they try to do the same thing that they did when they were very, in their 20s or 30s, and they tend to injure themselves. And I have a very personal point of view on this, because I was a professional dancer for the early part of my life until I was 31, and I was in a car accident and injured, and I had to stop. And my back has never been the same since then. And I remember being in a yoga class about 10 years ago, and I just couldn't do a lot of the things that they were all doing. And I knew how to adjust it for myself. I did know how to be easier on my body. But what was interesting is I started to cry in the class, because I felt the loss of, I used to do, triple pirouettes and fouettes and leaps across the floor. And here I couldn't do something simple like arching my back in a certain way. And it taught me, it was a very harsh in some ways, but a very effective teacher. And it taught me not to attach to what I could do or couldn't do with my body in terms of my self-identity.
Exactly.
And I was able to get my ego, because so much of it is just our ego, out of the classroom, of the exercise, the gym. I was able to get my ego out of it and do what was good for me, even if I didn't look like the person next to me who could do all these fancy schmancy things, I could do what I could do. If I couldn't do the plow, I didn't do the plow, which is putting your, legs over your head and touching the floor. And I didn't get down on myself. I didn't blame myself. I did what I could do. And there is a gift, in a very strong spiritual, mental, emotional gift in doing that, in going to a yoga class or the gym and not comparing yourself to the person next to you or what you used to be, but finding what it is you do now lovingly and just doing that, and not, having that attachment. And I learned it quite quickly after the age of 31, when I went from having this amazing body that could leap and jump and be up and down and spin, to walking down the street and having massive back pain that would cripple me. So, it was quite the lesson. And over time, I've healed my back, and I can do a lot of things. I didn't give up on it, but I realized I was going to have to live a little differently than I had before. And I think that's how everyone needs to be when they age. And those remarkable humans that we see in the news, that like the guy in the Olympics who was running with the artificial legs, I think they called him Blade, right. And he had the artificial legs, and he was running, and his goal was not to win the Olympics. His goal was to make the semifinals. And that's what he did. And he did not say, oh, I'm not as good as Bolt or whoever the famous guy is. He said, I'm doing absolutely the best I can do with what I have, what God's given me, my limitations. That's how we have to be as we age. We have to do the best we can do on our body, keep going, but not constantly compare ourselves to other people or the person we used to be. And then I think we'll be healthier in our minds.
I hope that everybody in the audience is hearing Margaret's voice, where there is no poor me energy at all. It's not about, oh, poor me, I used to be a dancer and now I had to do this. That she made lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. And that is the point that we are trying to make here today in terms of aging. We have no power or control or choice. We are all aging, and we will age. Our power comes from our choice in terms of where are we going to put our attention, on what we can't do or what we can do, or what we can create for ourselves that's different, that has meaning and purpose in our lives again, because we've lost other things in our lives that we could do, and we don't have that anymore. So what can we do now? Instead of putting our attention on what's gone, let's put our attention on what can we create. And I just love, Margaret, that there wasn't a trace of victim in your story. It was a beautiful story. You got the lessons from what happened to you, and you honored your body.
I think it, it's so interesting because particularly dancers are very, very wedded to their physical body, and we spend 8 hours a day looking in a mirror, and we're judged every moment by how our physical body appears and looks, and we're weighed, and it's probably like being continually in the Miss USA contest.
Right. Right.
And so when you lose that, it's very, very easy to feel you've lost yourself. But you haven't. You didn't lose yourself. You lost an aspect of what you were, but not yourself. And I think that's the same with aging. We don't lose ourselves. We lose an aspect. And I think that it's a wonderful time. In every event, there's a blessing, and there's a lesson, and there's a gift. And we look for that, and we empower ourselves. And that's the trick. That's to look for the lesson, look for the gift, the blessing, and whatever's happening. There are amazing numbers of new modalities out there, many of which many of you have never heard of. Some might work for you, and some might not work for you. Someone brought in a new machine called a bioinducer yesterday into my office, and showed me on my own body what to do with it. It's a machine that was invented by a chiropractor that aligns your neck and your body and your energy fields by putting it and sending voltage through you. There's another machine called Ondamed, Ondamed, that literally, this machine, when you put it on, reads the frequency vibration of every organ and every part of your body, every system, and it has the knowledge that each organ and each part of your body is supposed to vibrate with a particular frequency when it's in health. And if the vibration is off, the machine then sends you the correct vibration to bring your organ or your system back into alignment, into health. There is a machine that we have at our office called the cold laser Theralase, which brings down inflammation and uses laser light to regenerate cells, speed healing, and to reduce inflammation, and is wonderful for joint pain. There are so many things you can do. Investigate. Learn about what's out there. You don't have to live on Advil. You don't have to live on painkillers. And just enjoy the opportunity to investigate and to try out some new modalities. If you've never done acupuncture, maybe it won't work for you, but it's worked for a lot of people. If you've never done yoga, maybe it won't work for you, but you don't know till you try.
Exactly.
So as someone who's aging, or even if you're young and you don't want to age poorly, use the opportunity of what your body's telling you to change it and figure out whether it's diet or whether it's how you heal your body. Use the opportunity to change your habits into better habits, and don't use it to feel poor me, as Shelley says, but use it to feel lucky me. I now am being prompted to do things which are going to make me feel better.
But you're also taking some control by doing this in your aging process. You're doing something for yourself. And unfortunately, in our culture, our egos, as you were saying, is so attached, and our identities are so attached to our bodies, so that when we lose body function or we start to age, then we lose our sense of self. Yeah. And that is something that we really need to be able to change our point of view about.
Right. You may not be able to play tennis at the same level you used to. Doesn't mean you can't play tennis. You just find somebody who's at the same level you are now, and you just listen to your body and you do what's good for it. And maybe you will never win Wimbledon, but heck, you still enjoy the tennis.
Exactly. And I remember years ago I had a torn rotator cuff, and I did stop playing tennis, and actually that was the greatest gift to me, because that began my journey of mind, body, and doing meditation and yoga. And that led me into doing the mindfulness-based stress reduction program that I teach at Vassar Brothers Medical Center that's starting in September.
I was hoping you might talk a little bit about what mindfulness stress reduction is. What is that?
Well, the mindfulness-based stress reduction program, yes, it's a mouthful, is a program that's designed to raise awareness so that you can take control over the stress in your life, whether it be emotionally, spiritually, or physically, mentally, in any way. And we use 3 different modalities to help and give you these tools in order to do that. So the tools are, we first learn a body scan, which is a progressive relaxation, and we go into each body part, and we become more intimate with our body and know where it hurts and how to breathe into it to release it. And the second part of it is meditation, which is just observing what the mind is saying to you. So you can hear yourself say, "Oh my God, I can't do this. I'm fat. I'm ugly," and say, "Wait a minute, I'm abusing myself, and I'm creating more stress and suffering," and becoming aware of the messages that we're giving ourselves, and we're listening to them unconsciously, and allowing our mind to live our lives for us rather than our awareness. And then the third tool is yoga. And it's a mild form of yoga created for people who have chronic and serious illness. So, we're not standing on our heads, but it also gives us the flexibility in our body. That program is sponsored by HealthQuest at Vassar Brothers Medical Center, and it's starting on Monday evening, September the 24th, from 7 to 9 p.m. once again, at Vassar Brothers Medical Center, but you would need to speak with me first so I can tell you more about the program, because there is a commitment to it. There's a 45-minute-a-day commitment of practicing the CDs that we give you, teaching you the meditation, yoga, and body scan. And it's a behavioral technique. So in other words, what I mean by that is if you were learning to play the piano, you wouldn't go from lesson to lesson without practicing. And this is the same thing. You practice these tools so that you own them, and then you have use. You can use them immediately because you've been practicing them. You don't have to go looking for it. It's right there, and it's all about the breath. It's about learning how to breathe and use your breath to assist you. And the first thing we do when we come into this world is we take our first breath, and when we die, it's the last thing we do. We give out our last breath. The breath is our chi. We talked about this last time we were together.
Right.
It's our life force, and learning how to use the breath is very, very important. And it also is a huge tool in aging as well. So the mindfulness-based stress reduction is yet another way in which you can take control, whatever you can take control of, in terms of putting your awareness on the choices that you're going to make. We do have that choice point. Am I going to go down the negative route, or am I going to go down the optimistic route?
Right. I want to mention real quickly, too, that we have at Partners in Massage on Monday nights at 6:30, we have a Qigong class. And Qigong is a great alternative for people that the yoga is just too much for them. Mm-hmm. And you can come dressed in the clothes that you worked in, and you can literally, you don't have to get, all fancied up in your yoga duds. You can wear your jeans and a shirt. And just the other day, I was talking to the Qigong teachers, and they've just gone and studied for the last month. They were studying a walk that is an anti-cancer walk that the Chinese do that oxygenates the body and releases toxins from the body. And they have found that not only does it help in cancer prevention, but also it literally can help people heal cancer. And it was so simple. They were showing me this walk, and basically it's just kind of twisting your torso, breathing out and in as you walk, and it stimulates the different meridians, the acupuncture meridians. It oxygenates the body. It detoxifies the body. Most of us don't get enough oxygen. You were talking about breathing.
Right.
And this is one of the things that creates the acid and alkaline imbalance in our bodies, is this lack of oxygenation. So how many simple things are there that we can do to stay healthy, enjoy aging, not feel that it's a burden, but that in some wonderful, miraculous ways it's a gift. We're growing older, we're growing wiser, we're loving ourselves more, we're taking advantage of the different healings that are modalities that are in the world, and we're slowing down. That's the other thing. We're slowing down our expectations of ourselves.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I don't have to be so high, all the time. You don't have to think that we're going to be number one, number one. That's the big thing. Number one. You have to be number one.
Well, even in the word, human being, our word human being is just being. We're human beings. We're not human doers. But we place such a great emphasis on the doing rather than the being. And there's nothing wrong with slowing down. It can be quite beautiful, actually. There's so much that we don't see or take notice of because we're rushing so much from one thing to the next and one activity to the other. And there's a real great beauty in silence and slowing down.
And Shelley, you've spent your life working with death and dying, and the old cliche, and I bet you'll say it's true, that when people are looking back on their life, on their deathbed, they don't think necessarily about what they did. They think about who they were in relationship to other people and who they were in relationship to themselves. And it's important to have something of value that isn't just about what you can do, because as I said with my dancing, that can be taken away in a moment, by a car accident. and then you don't know who you are. Then you can't, who are you when the doing is taken from you? And I've always admired so many, I remember I used to use this as an example for quite a while because it was so huge in our minds. I think it was like a collective consciousness was when Christopher Reeve, who had been Superman, and we all looked at him. He was perfect, physically perfect, right? I mean, I remember seeing the old Superman movies with Christopher Reeve and thinking, he cannot be real. It's just too perfect, you know. There's just no flaws there, really. And so they put him in, cast him as Superman. And then he, you know, as we all know, he became paralyzed from the neck down. And every story that was told about him after that time was about how he became more gracious, more compassionate, more loving. And he even did not, I'm sure he had his moments of poor me, how could he not? But he did not dwell in that. He lifted above it. He rose above it ultimately. And I remember...
He didn't dwell.
I remember there was an interesting story about some of his oxygen becoming disconnected.
Right.
And he was more worried about the people in the room who were freaking out, trying to get him rehooked up, than he was about himself, you know. And you know, so you could be the most perfect human specimen, and you know, the next moment you could be as he was, and you don't lose yourself. You don't. And so when you're aging, you can't possibly be losing anything, because you are always an infinite and immortal spiritual being, and that is what is always. And the physical body is a beautiful gift we're given to live through, but not who we are. And we have to remember that.
That's exactly right. I would just like to add to that, I actually met Christopher Reeves at Valkill when he was there to speak, and he was so inspiring. He's one of those people that inspires to give you a different point of view. You know, Margaret, before we end, I just wanted to give the number for that mindfulness-based stress reduction program. It's 471-5269. That's 471-5269. Or you can reach me on my website, which is Shelley Tattlebaum, ShelleyTattlebaum.com, ShelleyTattlebaum.com. And so all the things that we do at the center, all the programs, the retreats will be there to help yourself out, as well as going to Partners in Massage, where Margaret is the co-founder and co-owner of, where these are healing centers. And once again, these are two that are in our community because we're talking to you, but certainly it's not limited to us. Certainly this is your journey to find a place where you feel good and where you feel comfortable and where you feel that you will be able to really progress on this journey.
We have a Reiki share circle this Sunday at Partners in Massage at 2 p.m. for anybody that's studying Reiki and wants to practice it, or anybody that feels that they need to get some Reiki. At Partners in Massage.
Tell them what Reiki is. Some people don't know what that even is.
Reiki is a hands-on healing where you are bringing in and channeling healing energy from the divine realms through your hands. And it's like the old laying on of hands, but it's become very popular. And we have someone who does a form of Reiki called Lightarian Reiki, and I do the Sui Reiki, and we're going to be giving everyone an opportunity to get some healing and to give some healing. So that's at 2 p.m., Partners in Massage. If you're interested, 229-9133. 229-9133 is Partners in Massage. We thank you so much. We want to real quick thank our sponsors, too, if you want to just mention their names again, because they are wonderful for sponsoring us in the show.
So once again, it's the William G. Miller and Son Funeral Home, and they're located at 371 Hooker Avenue in Poughkeepsie. Their phone number is 485-0241, 485-0241. And we have the New York State Solar Farm, making solar affordable for every homeowner, and that number is 877-SOLAR-95 or www.nyssf.com. And the Basic Glass Corporation, you can visit them at their website, www.basicglass.com. And I hope that everybody who's listening today really had the opportunity to expand their awareness and their minds and their options, and to know that growing old gracefully is a really beautiful thing, and we are so much more than just our physical bodies.
So we're going to be putting on some more of our angel music and inspiring angel music, and then John Flowers will be back to join you all. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Healing Hour.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.